Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Methanol Madness, brought to us by Daltons Landscape Supplies. And of course, we're all coming down off that epic weekend of racing, the Access Man New Zealand Midget car title. Certainly some pretty interesting results, which we'll review and have a look at a little later tonight. Welcome to the show, AJ. You must have been absolutely knackered after the weekend.
Yeah, I was fairly spent, that's for sure. But, there was a few real highlights for the weekend, and it showed us how good midget car racing can be, especially, Brad Mosen setting the scene with that lap record in hot laps. Man, that was sizzling.
Yeah, absolutely. A new track record by Brad Mosen, which really set the stage on night one of the championship. Louise, you had a couple of big days at the track, lots of interviews for you, and certainly some pretty big highlights as well.
Yeah, it was great to get to chat to so many drivers and offer a bit of a different perspective after all their heat races and B mains as well. It was really cool.
Yeah, great atmosphere created by the team at Ruapuna Speedway for sure. Well, to get the show started, it's time to move on to Crash of the Week. Of course, this is brought to us by Elite Re-Roofing and Mike Bell and his crew for all your commercial roofing needs. We have a look at the midget title here, and we watch for Aaron Hodgson just in the back there going up on the wall. Tries to recover from that moment and just rides a wheel and goes for a big tumble, AJ.
Yeah, he did, and I'm not sure whether Tom Lumsden got checked up just slightly, but you'll see Lumsden there putting the car into a slide. Then it sort of squares up a little and moves lanes just ever so slightly. Aaron Hodgson just nowhere to go. It was all over Red Rover.
Yeah, it was a pretty nasty crash with that cage hitting the concrete wall. And I think you're right. Tom Lumsden just started to go sideways, checked up a little. Aaron Hodgson was full throttle all the way through, and he takes the big tumble. In fact, we knew Aaron was possibly going to do this. He actually rode a wheel just a few laps earlier, but managed to recover. Well, time to move on to the Herrick Creek review of the night. And of course, the first class we'll look at is the quarter midgets. They had one night of racing on Saturday night. Louise, how did it all play out?
Yeah, just the one night for the quarter midgets, but great to get them on the stage with the New Zealand midgets. Obviously, lots of people watching and lots of eyes on the sport and the Speedway this weekend. So cool to give the youth class a little bit of a showing on the big stage. But it was Jack Brownlee's returning to victory lane again with the Thompson brothers right in tow behind him. Again, both Lakin and Cohen coming in second and third respectively. Had another great weekend, and it's cool to see them still showing some great speed and putting on some great battles against Jack.
Yeah, certainly that battle with Jack Brownlees and Lakin Thompson went right down to the wire. Both of those drivers knowing that whoever got the pass early in that first lap would probably go on and win that feature race. As it was, as you've indicated, Jack Brownlees took it out, and of course we're very used to seeing Jack Brownlees in victory lane. Well, the next class we'll look at is the V6 wingless sprints, and joining the show tonight is Josh Henderson. Josh is one of the commentators at Ruapuna Speedway. Welcome, Josh. And you cast an eye across the V6 wingless sprints. How did it all play out?
Yeah, it was a really good weekend of racing from our V6 wingless sprint guys. We had the Mainland Challenge. That was a 5 heat plus 1 feature kind of deal. So this was run on a point system, and overall Adam Evans took that one out over Kirk Hawkins, followed by George Headley, his first time down here in the wingless sprint, and Sam Johnston. They tied on 76 points.
Yeah, pretty good racing there, and we're very used to Adam Evans being a very good V6 wingless sprint driver. He has changed disciplines recently going into the sprint cars, but had a weekend of V6 wingless sprint racing, and of course took out that feature race. Next class we'll look at is the TQs, and they were racing on both nights. Louise, how did it all go?
Yeah, really strong fields for the TQs across both nights of this weekend, with Saturday night being the Tom Taylor Memorial, which is a 2-round series. So round 2 will be at Ellesmere next Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see who gets to come out on top of that. But Scott Bailey taking out the feature win, with second going to Aaron Finlay, our feature winner from a couple of weeks back, and third place Tyler Warnock. And then moving on to Sunday night, the feature results actually saw Tyler Warnock taking out another feature win. Again, well-deserved for that team. They've had their fair share of hardship this season, but returning to victory lane is always nice, a reward for Tyler and the team. Second place actually went to Ethan Smith, recovered nicely from his big tumble on Heat 1 during Saturday night's racing. It was pretty unfortunate there, but he rebounded beautifully to come home second in the feature the next night, and third went to Scott Bailey.
And another good result in the TQs was Isabel Clark getting second in a heat race and driving particularly well on a tricky track. Well, the next class we'll look at is the modified sprints, 2 nights of racing for those guys, and Craig Cox returned to victory lane on Saturday. A good race by Coxie, and got his car close to the lap record again, so setup's looking pretty good on that car. And on Sunday, Brett Booth took out the feature, very popular driver at Ruapuna, Brett Booth, and he got his first feature race for the season, I think it is, in the modified sprints. Well, the sprint cars had a couple of races there, AJ. They were cut short for one, but how did it play out there?
Yeah, Sunday night I was actually really impressed with the strength of the lineup that was there. We had 10 cars, and good to see young Gus Dawson having a run and land his number 9 car that was raced last year by Stephen Taylor. The results pretty much shared between Jamie Duff. He won the first race, Joel Myers won the second race. Myers was second in the first race, Jamie was second in the last race, and the Sheriff Jaden Dodge, he filled that third spot in both of them. Big crash for Caleb Bourne. It was really good to see him walk away from that, because that was a bell ringer, that one.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll just look at a replay here, and that car really got some airtime just initially, bounced pretty heavily, and took a massive tumble. Okay. Well, the next class we'll talk about is the Midgets, and of course it was the Access Man New Zealand Midget Car Championship, 2 days of racing with 36 of the best competitors in the country, and certainly it provided plenty of highlights. Louise, give us the results and possibly your thoughts over the weekend.
Yeah, obviously a lot leads up to that last feature race there, but third place, our new 3NZ, goes to Mitch Fabish. The Fabish name very famous in open wheel racing, with his father being 3NZ twice as well as 1NZ twice, so cool to see Mitch stepping up the ranks now and following in his dad's footsteps. 2NZ for the second time went to Brock Maskovich, matching his highest finish in the New Zealand title before, and another New Zealand title picked up there for Brad Mosen.
Yeah, certainly a great result for Brad Mosen, and we always knew that he could take it. He was one of the favourites going in, but I think the way he drove that car was probably destined to win it regardless of Michael Pickens crashing out in the feature. He was fast all weekend, and of course he got that lap record set on day one. Josh, you were watching the championship all weekend. What were some of the stories that were emerging for you?
Yeah, one of the key ones for me was Luke McClymont, the North Island champion. He came down with a lot of expectations on his shoulders and just didn't really equate it into what he needed to. So definitely one to keep an eye on in the future though.
Yeah, certainly has all the potential in the world, and there was certainly a mounting desperation with Luke going through the heats towards the end of the 2 days, and just had to make some desperate manoeuvres, and it just wasn't coming off as much as it has done this season. AJ, for me it was Jack Lowe's performance, going from 12th to 1st in a heat race very late on day 2, proving that it was quite raceable, that track, even though it had some challenges.
Absolutely, and the crowd noise from that was just something else, wasn't it? And yeah, it sort of rescued the show in some respects, didn't it? Because there was an amount of follow the leader sort of stuff, but Jack Lowe, he had to do one job, and that was pretty much get first, second or third, to really cement himself at the front or near the front of the grid. And he just drove that race inch perfect, and it again reminded us how good Jack Lowe is. He is one hell of a race car driver. Absolutely.
And your thoughts on the local drivers?
Very impressed. There is a temptation in events like this. Auckland or the North Island is the stronghold of midget car racing. Absolutely no doubt about that, and we acknowledge it. But every time there's a local boy that puts his hand up, several years ago it was Jack Lowe. Yep. This year we had Tom Lumsden win his first ride with the XB4, and that thing just went like an absolute rocket ship in that race, I might add. Ben Morgan, I think he was a local kid that really stuck his hand up this time. He had a good solid heat race win. We're going to reclaim Jaden Basile for this. They've only just gone to Auckland, but Jaden will tell anyone. Ruapuna is his home track. And then of course Jack Lowe. The others tried really, really hard and put in some great laps and so on. Jay Chadwick, he cut some good stuff out there. Unlucky a few with mechanical issues and that. And, we said in the build-up that perhaps the one thing that could hinder Jeremy Webb was the lack of seat time, and was really unlucky and unfortunate. I felt that it took something away from the championship when they couldn't make that 88 car fire a shot.
Yeah, well, certainly the locals did actually perform very well, but we couldn't take it away from Brad Mosen. And actually, Brad joins the show now. Welcome to Methanol Madness again, Brad. It must have been a hell of a week for you, mate. You finally got that second 1NZ title, which has eluded you for many race meetings now. What's it been like this last few days?
Oh, it's been awesome, just letting it all sink in, and just everyone that's been messaging and calling. It's obviously a big deal to win one of these titles, and it's cool just to feel the relief of actually getting it done. And, there's been so many times where I was sort of starting to think, we might be on here, but then Pickens has pipped us at the post, and things have gone wrong. So it was nice to just get it done and get a win for Wayne. He's been trying for probably more than 20 years to get a New Zealand title, and he's ran 2NZ a couple of times with Zach and maybe some others, but you never got the 1NZ. So awesome to do it for Wayne, and the boys are all fizzing. They're all behind me washing the car, and it's good vibes all around. So yeah, we're stoked.
Oh, look, we're really pleased for you, mate, because we've watched that car consistently be fast all year, and certainly we're not immune to understanding what happened to you last year. I mean, a devastating moment to lose that title with one lap to go. But after setting that lap record in hot laps of all things, you certainly must have known you had a rocket ship. Did you feel like the car was fast?
100%. Yeah, I was blown away, and to be fair, I was hustling it. I was basically pushing it as hard as I could, and the car was just so stable, and I just felt so in control. So it was just an awesome way to start the weekend, and just a big confidence booster for us, and just to to come back after everything that happened over the New Year's break, and then get down to Christchurch 2 weeks ago and have a good run, and then get down there for the title and have another great run. It's just nice to sort of put everything behind us and just be back to what we enjoy doing, which is racing at the front of the field, and with guys like Michael and Brock and all these young fellas. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable.
Well, you might be getting on in years a little now, and I don't think you're that old just quietly, but great for you to secure your status as 1NZ, and plenty of people would have thought you would have got more 1NZ titles over the years, but great for you to get that second one, mate, and certainly won it without controversy, and certainly the fastest car on the track. What happens for Brad Mosen now, mate? What's the next event for you guys?
So we're back at Western Springs. Here's Wayne walking around, happy as Larry. So we're off to Western Springs next weekend. We've got a weekend off this weekend. Back to the Springs next weekend to continue the Mitre Series. Yep. We've got our next two races are there, and then we're heading back down south. And I may as well just break this now. So we're going to come and run Steve Duff's sprint car down there for the Salute to Goody and then the Gold Cup. So that's something that's come together over the last few weeks, which is really exciting. And obviously Wayne and the guys will be bringing the 1NZ down. So we get to run both cars for that weekend, and we've got the BT race the weekend before. So plenty of racing coming up and lots of travel. So
well, I tell you what, mate, that's
to the wall really. There's a lot going on. So
I was going to say, that's a spanner in the works. So Brad Mosen announces he's going to be racing a sprint car at Ruapuna. Look, there'll be plenty of people very pleased to see you in a sprint car and see how you adapt to it. And of course, the guys at Concut, Steve Duff and co, certainly have got a good relationship with the Greenway team. I know Jamie raced a Midget a couple of seasons ago and really enjoyed it as well. That's certainly great news there, AJ. Brad Mosen's going to be driving a sprint car.
Yeah, I seem to remember him way back in the Springs Promotions days having a run around there in a red one with all the Mopar signage on it. But is my memory sort of playing tricks with me, Brad?
No, you're bang on. Yeah, it was about 2006, and it was actually owned by Steve Duff, that car too. So it's was throwing it back sort of 18 years and having another go. So that one didn't end up too well. I ended up stuffing it into a guy that spun out. So hopefully we have a bit more luck, and it's just an enjoyable night. It's sprint cars aren't my thing. As much as I would love to be at the pointy end of the field, I'm just going to do it for fun, and they're cool cars to drive, and it's a bit of a rare experience. So we're just going to enjoy it for what it is and see what happens. But obviously the focus would always be on the midget side of things. This is a pretty serious deal that Wayne's put together, so that's always been the focus, and the sprint car stuff's just extracurricular. But as I say that, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking forward and still hoping for a good result.
Well, that's great news, mate. We didn't anticipate you dropping that on us tonight, so plenty of people, as I said before, will be very pleased that you're doing the sprint cars. But I don't want to take away from the midget car title, because I don't know if you realise this, the whole crowd was on your side, mate. You have been down to Ruapuna a couple of times before, and everyone was very pleased to see you win that title. I know there's quite a few people in the pits despite the late finish on the night, but plenty of people were really happy to see you win that title. AJ, you wanted to ask Brad something.
Yeah, firstly, Brad, congratulations. That was as good as I've seen you go. It was really, really good. One of the things that Craig and I talked about over the PA was, the strength of your team, and we threw in there the Tim Clark factor, and I've known Clarkie since the early 80s and so on, but with his experience, how valuable is that he can bring all that stuff that he learned from the likes of Butterworth and Sleepy Trip and so on, how valuable is that to your team?
I mean, it's crucial, when you're racing in the midget class has always been really competitive, especially with between Michael and myself, and there's been years where you sort of look at Formula One, how things are going now. Red Bull's dominating, Mercedes dominated before that, and to a degree midget racing is similar, where you can only go as fast as your car will let you, and you sort of need to have the best team behind you and the best car, and I honestly feel like I'm in the best car and I've got the best team behind me, so it allows me to go and win these races. It definitely takes everyone that's involved, and Tim's a master. He knows exactly what to do. Saturday night in the feature, we were going to go out and run the top and keep the car free and stable, and as we had the whole weekend, and then he came over at the last minute and he said we should probably hook it up and stay on the bottom, which completely threw me off, and to be honest, I nearly told him I'd disagree, but once I thought about it, I realised that he's bang on, and we won the race. So there you go, and it's not just that race. The car's getting the track record, and it's won 5 features this year and 11 last year. So, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. He knows what he's doing, and he's making my life much easier.
I think you're right, Brad. He did take a big chance, because he came up to me just after you'd won the race. He goes, "Oh my God, I changed this car at the very last minute and nobody knew what I was doing." So he had his heart in his mouth, but he at least had the courage to make the change, and it worked out beautifully, and clearly you won that race so easily. Honestly, I mean, Brock was there, but he didn't look like he was going to make any sort of pass on you. So, look, mate, we just want to say congratulations again from all the Ruapuna Speedway fans. We love it when you come down here, mate. A bit like Max Guilford, people are starting to understand who you are, what you're about, and it was a great result, mate, and we hope you enjoy everything that comes to you in the next few months.
Yeah, thanks, guys, and thanks to everyone at Ruapuna for putting on the event and just being so hospitable. We were, everyone that was involved with the track was just great to deal with, and they put on a hell of a show. They're putting on the parades and the fireworks, and you guys with the show that you're doing, you guys do it well down there. So we appreciate being part of it, and of course I want to say thanks to Wayne and Robin from Greenway. All of the boys on the team behind me here, they've slogged it out all summer. We've been through a bit of controversy, and they've stuck by me obviously the whole time, and of course to my fiance Hayley at home, who's looking after our son, pregnant with our second kid, allowing me to sort of travel around the country racing. It's a pretty big deal, so she makes it possible, and she's a big part of allowing me to do this stuff, so really appreciate that, and my mum and dad and all my family for supporting me over the years, and just to everyone that's messaged and congratulated us through the week. It's been really cool.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, thanks for joining the show, Brad. It is a big moment in midget car history, because winning a New Zealand championship leads to so many opportunities down in the future, potentially with all the Americans that were watching, plenty of people on the stream as well. So we'll let you go there, Brad, but he's a great champion, isn't he? And I know he's going to be one of those champions that really defends his midget title this year.
Absolutely, and they relish it because they've tried so hard to get it. They've gone through a drought of many years and so on. And one of the things about Brad, every time he's been to Ruapuna, he's really engaged with everyone, as do most of the drivers. They want to be part of it, and I think the scene stealer for me is the fact that Brad came here that 2 weeks early to have a look at it, and he became everyone's friend down here. All the fans in the pits are gravitating towards that area, and we can start relating to him. You summed it up perfectly. We can relate to Max Guilford because we see him so often, and we don't see Brad as often, but every chance that he has had through his career to get to Christchurch, they've taken it, and had a great time down here.
And Brad becoming one of the favourite drivers down here at Ruapuna. And what an announcement that was. Brad Mosen in a sprint car for Speed Week on April the 5th, 6th, 11th and 13th. Certainly going to be very interesting to see how he goes. Well, folks, it's time for a break now. And on the backside of that, we've got Dirt Track News. Welcome to Wellington's largest caravan and RV shop. CB Caravans and RV Centre look after repairs and maintenance, and they are leak specialists. CB Caravans and RV Centre import UK caravans. Need to sell? They can help. CB Caravans and RV Centre, your caravan solution. Catch up with Will and Wendy today. And great to see Will and Wendy at the track enjoying the Access Man Midget Car Championship over the weekend. Well, time to move on to Dirt Track News, brought to us by CB Caravans and RV Centre. And if you didn't catch the big announcement, Brad Mosen is driving a sprint car in Speed Week. Brad announced that on Methanol Madness just a few minutes ago. So certainly a pretty good announcement, and a lot of people will be interested to see his progress there, AJ.
They sure will. And, Brad did have a go all those years ago, but quite often they take a little bit of getting used to, and that's why I've got the absolute admiration for the likes of Michael Pickens and Davey Kerr and Barry Butterworth back in the day, who are absolute masters at racing midget cars and sprint cars. There is one hell of a change in technique and so on, but Brad's very talented. It may take him a couple of races to get going, but he's going to be there or thereabouts, I'd say, by the second night.
Absolutely. So Speed Week running on the 5th, 6th, 11th and 13th of April, 4 race meetings in 8 days. It's going to be enormous. Josh, you got an announcement about the Midget Gold Cup.
Yeah, one of those days will be filled by the Midget Gold Cup, and we're grateful to have City South Van Spares as our title sponsor for that event. Jack Lowe, one of their sponsored drivers, ran incredibly well in the Access Man New Zealand Midget Car Championship, so really good to have their support for this event.
And another event happening at Speed Week is the V6 Wingless Sprint Rumble, and we've got some out-of-towners arriving, Louise.
Yeah, they've reached maximum entries with 30 wingless sprints set to take the stage for the Rumble that week, so it's certainly going to be busy for that class. But as well as all of the drivers travelling from the deep south down there, we've also got Luke McClymont coming from the North Island, who we've just seen run in the New Zealand Midget title. He's been having a pretty good season so far, picking up the North Island Midget Championship, which was a great feat for him and the rest of the Seamount team. But returning to the wingless sprint features that weekend, I think will be very interesting.
Yeah, well, certainly Luke McClymont was virtually unbeatable when he used to bring that car down a few seasons ago, so it'd be good to see if he can adapt to that new discipline of V6 wingless sprint racing. Well, time to move on to our share and win competition. Louise, what's happening there?
Yeah, so if you just head on over to our Facebook page, you'll see this post up there. All you have to do is share and or comment and tagging your friends, advising them of the South Island Midget Championship on February 17th to be in to win one of 10 family passes.
Yeah, good stuff, and that's proved very popular this year with 10 passes being given out at every meeting, and certainly lots of entries and plenty of people sharing those posts, and we really appreciate everybody doing that. Well, time to move on to the preview of our next meeting, and of course that is the South Island Midget Car Championship, brought to us by K&T Drainage. And AJ, it'll be a bit smaller than the New Zealand Midget Car title, but certainly there's a few drivers really starting to make their mark here, and some potential winners really emerging.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I would say it's being sponsored by K&T Drainage. So Jeremy Webb will be on an absolute mission to, sort of grab something back after the problems that they had at the Nationals. Looks like we've got Ben Matthews from up there in the Matamata area with the Repco Midget. He went very well as the weekend went on with the Nationals. Young Ben really started mixing it up and got a second behind Jack Lowe in that penultimate heat, and then won a B main. And they just love racing down there. That's why they're staying. They could tow 50 mile up the road and race at Western Springs, but they just so enjoyed Ruapuna.
Well, I'll tell you what, all those local boys, as you mentioned before, in the title actually performed beautifully. I mean, Jack Lowe especially, that was the race of the weekend for me, going from 12th to 1st. And as Louise pointed out, the City South Fansphere guys going absolutely crazy enjoying that race. But Ben Morgan went well. He won a race. Tom Lumsden won a race. And there's a couple of other drivers that are going very well also. Louise, what are your thoughts on the South Island Midget Car Championship?
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a shame, obviously, not to have Max Guilford there to defend his title, but that just leaves it open for any of our South Island guys, which I think a lot of them have got a really good shot. But obviously, there's plenty of guys capable of winning it, so I think that it's still anyone's game at this point.
Well, why don't we go around the table and have a pick for the South Island Midget Car Championship. Josh, who would you be picking?
Well, one of the fastest runners lately has got to be Liam McCoubrey. He's run so well, so fast, and just hasn't had the luck to back it up. So I'm betting that he'll have the stretch of luck that he needs and get that win.
Okay, Liam McCoubrey for you. For me, I'll take the easy out. That's Jack Lowe. I really enjoy his driving style and really stepped up to the plate on a very tricky track in the weekend. AJ?
Yeah, a young guy that's really impressed this season. Hasn't quite got the results he deserves consistently. Nathan Wilkie, for me, it's time for a dark horse.
And Louise, what's your selection?
Yeah, I think I definitely have to agree with all of them, but it would be cool to see someone like Glenn Jury step back into victory lane.
Yeah, the Access Man sponsored car, and certainly the big showman in Midgets when he's putting those slide jobs on. So that is the preview for the next meeting, which is happening on the 17th of February at Ruapuna Speedway. Well, look, folks, we should probably address the track conditions at Ruapuna in the weekend, and it was pretty obvious that we had some difficulties getting that track sorted out. AJ, what were your thoughts on it? A bit the same as you. I still think we had a pretty good event, but we did lose the crowd there for about an hour or so, and it was a very long Sunday.
Yeah, and it was like a momentum killer, I know, in the job that you and I do. We were so busy there. Yeah. But, sort of everyone sat there and we tried to keep them well and truly informed with some very insightful interviews with some great people. So it did lose some momentum. Afterwards, I had a discussion with a very prominent Auckland Speedway personality. Yep. And he said to me, an Aucklander was always going to win. And I said, well, yeah, so they should. And he said, no, they're used to driving on tracks like that. Oh, well, and so I did have to cast my mind back, and Ruapuna is not the only track that has had the odd issue and so on. And one of the big things is the variation in the weather that we had. We're not making excuses or anything like that, but there were some underlying factors and so on. And the fact that once they did something, it kind of brought it back. And again, we allude back to Jack Lowe's drive in the second to last heat, which was long after that track work, going from 12th to 1st in a New Zealand Midget Car Championship against a darn good field. And so that showed to me then, there's still plenty in this.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging situation, and the crowd did have to handle some of the dust and some of the long delays there, but the championship itself was great. The results were good. It was the same for everybody, and certainly, as AJ just pointed out, the racing was really good. We know Chris took it pretty hard on the chin there, and he's fronted up and said, hey, you got it wrong this time. But what you need to remember, Chris, is that you've had pretty good tracks for the last 3 years at Ruapuna with senior drivers telling you that it's as good as any track in the world. So we'll put that one down in the notebook, make some notes and see what we can learn from it all. But certainly slightly challenging, but nevertheless I think the event was still a success, and the Access Man New Zealand Midget Car title, run for the 81st time here in New Zealand, went down with Brad Mosen taking it out. Well, folks, that's another episode of Methanol Madness done and dusted. My thanks to Josh Henderson, Louise Smith and AJ Batt for joining the show. And until next time, keep your foot up it.